What is up, guys? This is your boy in Splatfest Studios here, doing my final Splatoon 2 review or analysis, whichever. So, anyways, let's get started.
So, very recently, the final Splatfest for Splatoon 2 has happened. Chaos versus Order. I don't know exactly who won yet, but it's been 2 years since Splatoon 2 first released. The game first came out on July 21st, 2017, if you don't want to do the math. Because I hate math. Anyways, I've never really talked a lot about what I truly think about the game. I've made various videos on the game, covering many Splatfests, and heck, even make SFM animations of it. So, do I like this game or not? Well, we'll find out. Now, this is going to be a bit different from my other reviews, as it's kind of going to be a bit more of me just gushing over the game as a whole, so yeah, I will do still like the categories and such, but I'm going to probably do them in different orders, and I probably will go over them a little bit more in depth than usual on like other videos. Got all that? Good. So, let's start this off. Man, this was the first game. Okay, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was awesome, and Breath of the Wild was awesome, but ARMS was okay, I guess. But man, this was the game that everyone was waiting for. I was so excited to play this game. I just wanted to play it so badly. Because I love Splatoon 1, and I thought that Splatoon 2 could really be a sequel. Well, in terms of the gameplay, not much has changed. If you played Splatoon on the Wii U, this is pretty much the same thing, except now it's on the Switch. But it really doesn't matter. You're still running around, you're shooting ink, you're swimming as a squid in your ink to not only recharge your ink, but also move faster, and you're also trying to claim your turf in whatever game mode you desire. It's just not that bad. The gameplay isn't really different, but it's so good. It feels so good. You might think that the Wii U gamepad actually felt a little better, but I'll be honest, the Pro Controller on the Switch, or even just the Switch in handheld mode, it is great regardless. It is so good. Everything works so well. The controls are super responsive. Do I even really need to say anything? The controls are great. Although there are a few issues with the map. Since you don't have the gamepad screen, this time the map is mapped, get it, to a button. I can essentially, you open the map by pressing X, and you jump with B, whereas in the first game you used X to jump. Yeah, but don't get me wrong, it's not that bad. You'll get used to it after a while. It's really not that bad. It's a very, very small thing, but it is there. But really, regardless, the controls are so good. Oh, it makes me squee in the best way possible. But hey, the gameplay's not going to be that good if there isn't a good amount of stuff to do, so let's go over that. I guess we may as well start off with Turf War. It's pretty much the same thing as before. You try and claim the most turf than the other side, which essentially is where the ink is used. Essentially, you want to ink as much of the stage as you can, or at the very least, more than the other team. So yeah, there's really not a lot to say other than Turf War is just great. It's so much fun to play, but it can get a little bit tedious at times, and we'll be coming to this later on. But yeah, this is great regardless. Then we have ranked battles, where you have Splat Zones, which is probably the lamest out of them all. I mean, you just gotta capture one zone for a good amount of time, and then that's it. It's not really my favorite. Tower control is pretty fun. You essentially ride on a tower and you gotta ride it to the goal. That's pretty much this one. I personally do find this one to be more fun, though it can be a very chaotic mess. I don't think it's that bad. But then we have Rainmaker, which is my personal favorite. It's similar to tower control, but in this one you carry a Rainmaker to the other goal. It's more simple with this one because this one relies on not so much, because with the tower control, the tower moves on its own, but with the Rainmaker, you can pick it up and you essentially have a brand new weapon. Personally, I like this mode the most because it can get so chaotic, and it's just so much fun to see how far you can make it into the other's territory without dying. Personally, I think Rainmaker is probably the best. Then Clam Blitz, which was added in an update after the game came out. This one's the lame. Okay, you know how I said Splat Zones was the lamest? This one might be the worst. Don't get me wrong, I do like Clam Blitz's concept. Essentially, you have to throw enough of these clam things into another's basket. You essentially have to form footballs by carrying enough clams, and you have to throw it at the other's goal to break it open. Then you can throw clams in there, and you have to throw in a certain amount, somewhere around 100 or so, to win the match. This mode isn't the best. I think with anybody, it's the worst. I think if it was more like based around private battles, if we were able to communicate better, I think it would be a lot more fun. But the problem is there isn't good communication because the Nintendo Switch Online voice chat sucks. But everyone's talked about that to death, so I won't mind. But regardless, though, Clam Blitz isn't that bad. But you'll get a better experience if you get a bunch of your buddies who love playing Clam Blitz around and play it. I think it's way better there because then you can kind of coordinate more what to do. Then new to Splatoon 2 is Salmon Run, which is kind of like a zombies mode. Essentially, you collect these golden eggs by defeating the salmonids. Essentially, these enemies are supposedly like eventually gonna take over Inkopolis and such, and you have to defeat them and take their babies, I guess. Seriously, Salmon Run is so much fun. Like, there aren't a lot of maps, and there's only one map that's used every now and then. But, man, it is so much fun. It's so good. Now, it can get a bit too difficult at times, but, man, this is a great mode to play. It's so much fun just trying to see how many golden eggs you can get. And this does help you in the game as you can redeem some stuff for little bonuses such as extra clothing, extra cash, extra food chunks, and whatever. To be fair, Salmon Run is so good. So good. And then we have Octo Canyon, which is basically this game's, first single-player campaign. This is basically Octo Valley again, but a little bit improved. There isn't really a lot to say, and this is where part of the story comes in. Essentially, you play as Agent 4 on a quest to save not only Marie's sister Callie, but also save the great Zapfish as well. There's really not a lot to this. But to be fair, I do like it more than Octo Valley. I think that Octo Canyon is way better. Here's one reason. There are a lot more weapons you can use. In the first game, I believe you can use different weapons within the single player by using the amiibo, but not everyone owns an amiibo, so it doesn't really count. But you can, in fact, use different weapons for every single level, which is really cool. They could really teach you how to use the weapons a lot better in the game. Another reason is that the levels are so good. They could always come up with a good amount of variety. It's good. And the boss fights, in my opinion, are a lot better than the first games. Well, except for the final boss. But that's entering spoiler territory, so we're not doing that. But overall, Octo Canyon is so much fun. It's still the same thing as Octo Valley. Going through these levels, collecting Zapfish and such. There's really a lot to it. You can also collect Sunken Scrolls, which basically show you more about what happened between Splatoon 1 and Splatoon 2. Not the most interesting stuff, though. You can also upgrade your weapons as well to get them a lot stronger. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, Octo Canyon might just not seem that original, and to be fair, it isn't original, but I'll be honest, it's like junk food. It's not really that much better than the first game, but man, the levels are so much fun to run around in, and they're just so much fun to play. Yeah, the difficulty is pretty easy, but it's fine, especially once we get into a later mode in the game, which would bring us to the Octo expansion. However, I'm going to cover that a little bit later. But anyways, let's get back into more other stuff. Miscellaneous stuff. I guess the first thing is the amount of customization you can do to your Inkling. You can do so much with this game. One of the first things is you can have new hairstyles, which, hey, that's cool. Too bad all the male hairstyles are crap, while the girl hairstyles were actually quite good. Ugh, I don't know. But really, it's not there. It's so cool. You can also choose your leggings, which kind of makes me wonder why is there not a shop that allows you to choose like what kind of shorts or pants you want? I don't get it. Why is that not an option? But hey, this is fine regardless. And you can also do other stuff as well, like you can get various clothings and such. Really, that's pretty much it. Except for one thing. You can play as an Octoling. Remember in Splatoon 1 where people were saying that you could play as Octolings, but not really? Well, now you can play as an Octoling. Granted, you have to pay $20 for that. But yeah, you can also play as an Octoling as well, which is really cool. But we'll touch that in a little bit as well. Next, we'll get into the soundtrack, and I think the soundtrack is great. I don't know if it'll ever beat Splatoon 1's soundtrack in my opinion, but it is great regardless. I think Splatoon 1's soundtrack is more iconic, but seriously, Splatoon 2 has so many good songs. There are so many. Next, let's get into Splatfests, which have recently ended, but I may as well put it in this video. I hate Splatfest. Don't get me wrong, I like the concept. Essentially, you pick the side that you like the most, whether it's money versus love, or heroes versus villains, whatever. And you fight for that side. I like this, but there are some problems I have with Splatfest, and I've expressed this a lot throughout the years, but I'm gonna just narrow it down. The first reason is because they don't ever introduce any new music. Heck, even in this new final Splatfest, yeah, they did bring back some other songs like Ink Me Up and the Calamari Incantation, but they're already used before. They don't really have any, they didn't even make, from what I could tell, they didn't even make one new audio track for the final Splatfest. It's the same music over and over. It's dreadful. Oh, but it gets worse, because sometimes you might choose a side that's filled with crap players, and you'll find yourself losing matches over and over and over and over. This is where I hate Splatfest the most. It does vary. Sometimes you can get lucky like I did with the final Splatfest, where I got a good balance of W's and L's, but man, there are times where you will only get L's, and if you're like me and you want to get to the king/queen rank, it can take forever to do that. If you lose enough matches, it just ruins the fun for me. And yeah, I said before that I like Turf Wars, but this is when Turf War becomes extremely competitive. You know what's too competitive? It's just so annoying. Now this does vary within which side you choose or who's playing in the Splatfest and such. But man, there are times where you're just gonna run up against impossible. You're either gonna go off against a team that has so much power over you, or you have a bunch of idiot teammates. I swear, you don't know the struggle if you've never tried to get a king in one of these Splatfests. Sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it's brutally impossible, and wastes your life away. And it's not fun. I know some people might like grinding, and don't get me wrong, it's not bad, but man, it is not the good kind of grinding. You have to grind so long to get a king sometimes that it's not even really fun. It's not fun getting a king/queen rank. It's just a chore. It just feels like a job, but an unfair, annoying job. Splatfests need to be fixed for Splatoon 3. And also, might I add that some of the Splatfests were very stupid. I mean, which hatched first, the egg or the chicken? Really? Heroes versus villains? Why didn't that Splatfest determine the first DLC character for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate? That would have been awesome. That would have actually been a Splatfest that would have been worthwhile. But instead, no, it was heroes versus villains. Very great. Ugh. Well, now I got that load off my shoulders, we may as well go into the Octo expansion. Now, I have already done a review of the Octo expansion before. It's in my NCSO 7 playlist of my episodes. So, I'll touch a bit brief on it. I love Octo expansion. You know how I talked about how Octo Canyon isn't really different from the first game? Oh my god, this Octo expansion is so good. It's so good. The story is way more interesting. You play as an Octoling, and essentially you have to get back to the surface by completing various levels, or, well, missions or tests, whichever you prefer. But these tests are not easy. Many of them are very challenging. Some of them are harder than others, but man, there are some great challenges. This is where a single player really gets better, in my opinion, because the difficulty is just right. The levels, okay, some of them are ridiculous, Matchmaster, girl power, but like, it's not like it's really, really hard. You just gotta be good at the game. And heck, if you really are that bad at the game, you can choose your weapons. Sometimes, you can do it with either the hardest weapon, or you can just choose a more easier weapon. It doesn't really matter if you choose the easier option. You do get a lower payout, but you still get a payout bigger than how much you paid to do the test. So you're always coming out in the plus if you manage to pass the tests. Yeah. And if you suck enough, you ask for help by Pearl and Marina to skip that level. But the thing is, you don't get the mem cake, which allows you to get other armor in the game. So, yeah. Honestly speaking, Octo Canyon is good, but Octo Expansion is way better. This is proof that Splatoon can have a great single-player campaign. They can really do it. And that ending segment. Oh, the ending segment. Overall, Octo Expansion, I'd give it an 8 out of 8. Simply put, it is great. Man. But that's pretty much all I have to say for Splatoon 2. That's pretty much it. And to be fair, this is honestly kind of sad because this might be one of the last Splatoon 2 videos I will make. Don't get me wrong, I will still do more Splatoon SFM animations and such, and posters and such, but this might be one of the last Splatoon 2 videos I'll ever put on YouTube that isn't an animation, so I hope you guys enjoy it. But overall, this is a phenomenal game. I know there wasn't a lot there, but seriously, play the game for yourself. It is so good that, oh, it makes me squeal. The community can be a bit toxic, but seriously, that toxicity I can deal with. The community might be toxic, but it's really not that bad. The game is awesome. I would totally recommend you getting it. On my scale of 0 to 10, I give the game an easy 10 out of 10. Thanks for watching this video, and make sure to like and subscribe if you guys want to see more Splatoon 2 content. Even though I just said that I might not do more Splatoon 2 content, whatever. Let me know if you guys agree with this review. And yeah, so anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Take care. Or, well, to actually speaking, I'll see you guys with the final Splatfest. So, bye.
It's showtime! Did you enjoy the show? Well, time for the highlight.